Welcome, everyone. Hi, I'm Peggy Beauregard. Part of our team is here. Tina Chong is here, and Fidel is also here. And what we do is we elevate your investment portfolio with hand-picked commercial real estate gems poised for growth. So if you are interested in learning more or having your portfolio grow, give us a call and let's have a conversation. We are really excited today to have a community with us. These three gentlemen are going to talk about how they do their due diligence, create legacy, come up with the prices, returns, etc. But before they start, I would like to read a little something which they are basically going to talk about, but this kind of deals more with a homeowner than with 200 and 300 unit complexes. So this is about before hiring a contractor. So before hiring a contractor, be clear whether the amount discussed for a project is an estimate, the contractor's educated guess at what the project will cost, or a quote. Tina, please help. Or a quote, the actual amount you will pay. On-site estimates, quotes, are better than over the phone. The visit from the contractor is really important so they could actually see what the job costs and that you don't get charged a higher amount. Contracts, not all tradesmen have contracts, and those who don't may still be good. If you could get the contractor to put it in writing, that would be great. And it should include a start date and a finish date. Additional fees that might arise and other pertinent details, like you might want to change something that's going to cost you more. As for materials, you could buy your own, or the contractor might be able to get you a better price, but that way you get what you want. The liability, check that your contractor has liability and workers' compensation insurance, plus any special licensing needed for the job. And don't forget, permits may be required, so make sure that your contractor will pull the permits. If he or she doesn't pull the permits, then you need to go down to the city and pull them yourself. Thank you very much. And with that, we're going to bring you these amazing gentlemen who buy lots and lots of units. They've got about 1,100 in escrow right now and have quite a few thousand doors already under their belt. And they are going to talk to you about some of these same subjects. So gentlemen, welcome. David Hills, Chris Smeller, and I'm sorry, who's
we got Brett
Rosenmeyer.
Right. So this is a great team. I've been working with them for a couple of years and I find them pretty amazing. So gentlemen, please take it away.
Thank you, Peggy. We appreciate that. So yes, I'm Chris. This is David and Brett. We are with Acquisitions and Capital with Community Investment Group. We're based here in Chesapeake, Virginia as our headquarters, but we own and manage and transform communities between Virginia and North Carolina. We've recently grown into Tennessee, Georgia. We've moved down to Florida. So kind of the East Coast is kind of where we have grown out from and helped expand our footprint in there. That's our territory that we like the most. But we're a multifamily apartment company. We're a forever owned company, which is a little different than what we find out there in the market. And yeah, so currently we have about 29, right below 3,000 doors that we own, that we have been building and growing and transforming for the last few years. Currently with what we are going to be closing in the next month or two, will be just over 4,000, between 4,000 and 5,000 doors. So we've grown tremendously fast in the last few years. And part of what we do, which Dave will take over here in just a minute, is we buy properties, we create tremendous value financially. But what we really do is we have a community transformation aspect to our company, which is definitely a one of one. We call ourselves the Chick-fil-A of multifamily apartments. And I think from our story, it kind of explains why. But yeah, that's kind of who we are and what we do kind of on a high level. Dave, if you want to tell them a little bit about.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you, Peggy, for that great introduction. And we We've really taken the time to build out a nice stable platform to be able to grow on solid ground over the last 12 months. We paused on any additional acquisitions in order to do that. And I think that's really important, and really grow that in-house team. We've definitely tried several different third-party property management companies, very, very large companies, and we just felt like we could do a better job with our own assets in-house and growing a team. So we've spent lots of money growing that property management in-house team, and it's allowed us to move faster and at lower costs, and really pay a lot more attention to our assets that we own. And so I think that's one of our most important things that we have. We have over 100 team members, and with the four states that we're currently in, it's all managed in-house. We've got a unique return structure, which Peggy, would you like us to touch on that and the legacy portion?
We lost Peggy there on mute, but
Sorry, Peggy, I think you're muted
Yes,
there.
yes, we'd like you to go over that.
Okay, great.
We want you to talk about how you do your due diligence, walk the property, and like all of that also. What you find, and then like kind of what I covered about, I know you get contracts from your people that are going to work on your properties, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's a good point on residential and multifamily. So we have a very extensive checklist that we go through when buying a property. We do a property condition assessment report that's through a third party, and they'll actually go through 100% of the units and really identify certain unit types need more CapEx than others. And you create a huge Excel sheet that identifies each unit, what's needed in that unit, and then we partner up with Lowe's as well as a couple other national companies, and we're the largest Lowe's account, we've been told by some in the United States, and we'll get all of that pricing, create the CapEx budget. And then that's part of the lender requirements is, what are you going to do per unit to add that value? And on the lending side, they're looking for, if we give you a loan and the loan is for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever the case may be, how are you going to add that value, and how are we going to exit as the lender, with a refi at the end of that loan term? So it's really important to have all of those due diligence items together, having a brand new survey done. We always do phase 1 environmental. It's not a large expense, always worth doing, because if you end up with contaminants on your land, that would be a real mess. So we always ensure that is not the case. We've never had to go to it's in phases. So the first step is phase 1, and they say there's no problems at all. They identify something, then you would go to a phase 2 where they actually dig into what the problem is. And then phase 3 would actually be getting rid of the land that's contaminated and replacing it with new soil or that sort of thing. We've never had to go past phase 1, fortunately. But we take all of the steps necessary. We don't try to cut corners and save money on the due diligence process. We also have an amazing in-house team, full construction. We have several general contractors in-house. We have master electricians, Class A builders. Brett is a roofing expert. And we just involve the whole team. So when we go to a property, like the one Dove Landing in Virginia Beach here that we're purchasing, I think we showed up with 15 people that were all on the team, and they all have their different expertise and they all overlap. But by the time we're done, we've turned over every stone and figured it all out. So there's always things that come up after purchase that were not expected. So you have contingencies built in there with some extra CapEx budgets. But yeah, it's a very thorough process. They're large purchases. We're generally buying 200 all the way up to our current one we're closing on 630 units. So it's a lot of due diligence for several days to go through the property and do it right.
And to that point, part of that due diligence is a little different with how we handle it and more extensive because in this industry, you'll find a lot of people that buy multifamily apartments, whether it's 50 units or even hundreds and hundreds of units. People are referred to as operators or sponsors, and that's people that buy the properties and generally turn it over to a third party to manage. They generally have third party contractors that are doing a lot of their due diligence. They hire companies that walk through and give them assessment reports. That's how the standard of this industry operates. And that's definitely one thing that sets us apart from anything that we've seen out there is that we aren't sponsors, we're owner operators. Matter of fact, all three of us have ownership in every property that we put together. And so when we're purchasing these, there's so many properties you can purchase and run and do all these things with. It has to be something that we would want to own from our own way of acquiring properties, and people that come on, like Dave mentioned, we have over 100 actual employees, W-2 employees. We're a very large team. And we offer ownership to our team because the idea of how we purchase them is a forever ownership. So your cycle for a lot of multifamily apartments, people don't always realize unless you're in the industry, is a 3 to 5 year cycle. It's this weird kind of cyclical, every 3 years, these big apartment complexes are changing hands. And that's how you create tenants and that's how you create turnover in these properties. We're buying them from the beginning. We're coming in heavy with our team, the value that we bring, but also the capital that we put into it, transforming the community, putting a ton of money into making this property last forever because we're going to keep it forever. It's a multi-generational thought process with Community Investment Group. And that's been a huge difference from what we've seen anywhere. And it's definitely helped us create a lot of the success we've had and the type of properties that we buy and how we buy them. So that helps to clarify that.
And we say community a lot, obviously it's in our name, and what does community actually mean to us? And one thing we like to say is we have clean, safe, and affordable apartments. So 3 things that we really try to elevate our apartments at. And one aspect of that affordability, over half of our properties are affordable housing properties. These are LIHTC, low-income housing properties, and we really like to come in and elevate these properties to the full community. And we partner with a lot of local communities, not a lot of local organizations like churches or an organization called Apartment Life, which what they do is we give them an apartment to live in. Usually a family or a couple comes and lives at that property, and they will run 3 events every month, different events to bring the organization and the community together. Different things like back to school, events for all the kids that are in the community, or different events around the holidays to bring the community together. So that's just one aspect, part of the community.
It's a big aspect,
Yeah, it's a very holistic approach to purchasing. It's not just about spreadsheets and money. It's they call it an asset class, but it's people's homes that you're dealing with. So we definitely add tremendous value, financially and to the people's lives. So it's an exciting role that we have, because when we identify a property and we get to purchase, we feel like we've made those people's lives better by purchasing the property and having it under the community umbrella. But to discuss the returns, just a couple of examples of what you can accomplish when you have an in-house team. We purchased Autumn Lakes. It was a 296 unit apartment complex, and in February of 2020, the month before COVID really got started. That was a half occupied property. had lots of crime, no camera systems, it was very dark at night. Uber Eats wouldn't come in there and deliver food after dark. And we purchased that. We completely transformed that entire community. We call it lights, camera, action. We go in and light it up like Yankee Stadium. We camera every inch of the property. We find that a lot of communities, it's just a few bad apples. We have zero tolerance for crime in the communities, and so you go in and really clean it up. We took that from half occupied to 100% occupied. Increased the rents. We added 2 6-figure playgrounds to the community. Redid the basketball courts. It had tree-sized weeds growing out of the swimming pool. A lot of the low-income communities, they'll say it's a liability, just fill it in. We spent over $80,000 redoing the pool. It now looks like a country club, and it's fully lifeguarded. Those kids get to learn how to swim during the summers, and I hang out by the pool. A lot of time they don't have opportunities to go on vacations in the low income communities, and we sponsor the basketball teams. They also said take the goals down for basketball. It just creates trouble, and the kids get into trouble when there's nothing to do. So now there's playgrounds and there's basketball and there's swimming pools and all these great amenities in the community. There was an old maintenance shop that wasn't really being utilized, and we turned that into a high impact patrol station for the police officers. We put a nice conference table in there, fully stocked with food and drinks, and brand new bathroom and giant screens that showed every inch of the property. And they would come in, chief of police would come and hold his meetings there, and just that presence at the property, and they'd come in, stop by and use the clean bathrooms and grab a snack, and just complete 180 transformation. So we filled that up, did all those great things. We bought for $13.7 million. 19 months later, we did a cash out refi for $57 million, and provided amazing returns to our investors there. Everyone said, that's great, it's a unicorn, you just timed it right, and you'll never do that again. We've got 25 different properties that we're doing that at all of our properties. I'm just adding tremendous value to the residents' lives, tremendous financial returns, and we just continue to do that. But it's you can't do it third party with that sort of time. We've done over 1,000 full gut renovation unit turns in the last 4 months. When you think about going in and doing one apartment, people buy an investment apartment, they go in and they spend 8 months doing one unit turn. We did over 1,000 in 4 months. Just unbelievable numbers. We've added, we had 2 different communities that had low occupancy when we bought it. We took them from low 70% occupied, added over 80 leases and 80 unit turns in 1 month, took it to 100% occupied. Just, dramatic things. As well as when you do things in-house, you save a lot of money. So instead of spending $1,200 on a unit turn, or $12,000, we'd spend $3,000. So huge savings there. So what we do is we try to keep the return simple for investors and have a steady stream that you can continue to invest with us. And the goal is to really front end load that return for the investor. And so we offer a 20% average annual return, and that's with whatever investment you decide to go in on. And it's an 8% preferred return. And then for people that go in larger with us, we really appreciate that return, and we call that our legacy investor. And so that's a $1 million plus investment, and that can be pooled in an LLC between multiple people, and write $1 million check through that LLC. And so what that does is it provides the exact same great return For example, you invest $1 million, 3 years later, we cash out refi. We'd return the 20 for the 3 years, so we give you back 1.6 million return. But because you're legacy level, you get all your money back, all the return out, and then you retain half of your ownership that you had, basically as a bonus for the life that we own the property. And of course, we sell it, you have that ownership, you get proceeds from the sale, but you'd be a forever owner, you'd get quarterly distributions, you get, future cash out refinances anytime. All of our investments have we do a cost segregation on all of our properties. Some people do it on single family and, smaller apartment complexes, but we do it on all of ours. And so that would provide you with a negative K1 to be able to write off on your tax returns. So that's a huge advantage when you're dealing with larger apartment complexes. And so just a lot of the time it kind of scales with your investment as you get that 60% return. You also got a negative K1. Can't give you tax advice, but a lot of the time they tend to match up pretty good with that negative K1 and grow without all those tax repercussions. So
That was a great job. You touched on a lot of things. I think, what we found, because at this point we have hundreds of investors that have trusted us and grown with us, is that we find that they obviously enjoy the tremendous returns that we offer, and we love giving those back. But also you get to check that box of what we're doing with the community as well. So it's kind of that's where that double bottom line thought process comes from, because it's not just going toward an asset like you mentioned. It's actually going toward changing the lives of those people and us keeping it forever, and you can see it grow forever. So yeah, we really enjoy it, and obviously a lot of our investors do. And so we're happy to be able to tell it to more people and show everybody what we're doing. So we appreciate this, Peggy.
Thanks. Yeah, and I have some questions. Are you ready for a Q&A?
Sure.
ready.
All right. So, and thank you very much for your great presentation. And you know me, I always have a lot of questions. Hi, Fred. Nice to see you. Long time no see. So the last thing you were talking about, so you do quarterly distributions. You pay the 8 pref at the quarterly distribution, I'm presuming, and the 20% comes at the refi. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's the 8% pref would be, when available, you would get that at the quarterly distributions. So there's a couple different investment types. There's some that are a little more stabilized. We're basis buyers, so we're always looking for a great cost per unit. But there's some that are, built in 2006 and don't really need much and, are well occupied. And then there's like our Autumn Lake story where it's needs a whole lot more construction and CapEx. And so, you're in the investment with us. So if it makes logical sense that we're pouring all the money back into unit turns to get it done as quick as possible to get that great return. Occasionally there's not that 8% preferred return available at the quarterly, but it all just continues to accumulate at that 20% average annual return. But if we are paying out distributions, the investor gets all of the first 8% that's distributed, and then above that 8%, it's distributed evenly depending on your ownership. But yeah, definitely distributions are completely front end loaded for the investor.
So you don't say like after the first quarter or the first full or 2 quarters that you start every deal is different because of the CapEx.
Exactly.
Yes. So that's definitely the goal is to, after the first quarter, or a couple quarters to start paying out those distributions.
Do you let the investor know basically how that is going to run before they invest? Like you could say, hey, look, this needs a lot of work. It's probably going to be 9 months before we start any cash flow. For instance.
Yes. We definitely have, that particular investor, what is your goal? Are you looking for a cash flow? Or do you just want an investment that I just want the great return at the end? If you have cash flow, great. But yeah, if you're looking for a consistent cash flow, then there's a couple different types. Both the current offerings are ones that don't need a whole lot of CapEx, and they're better cash flow.
And to that point, sometimes, if you look at it from a cash flowing perspective or heavy CapEx, where the 20% is kind of going to fill everybody up. Another thought process that investors look at is, the compounding effect of you're in an investment. If, let's say, 24 months from now, we have stabilized a heavy CapEx project and it provides a big windfall to be able to do that refinance faster, your money compounds faster, because the idea is we want to get you back your return as fast as possible. Yes, if pref is there, that's great, but the idea is to get the money back as fast as possible. You've been paid back your great return, hopefully coming right back in, or a portion of it, however much you want to do to go to your next one, so that we can grow you also to that legacy portion as well. So a lot of thought process as well. I don't necessarily want to come into the legacy level up front, but I love the 20% average annual return, because where else can you get all that for that amount? Well, we want to grow that return with you as fast as possible. And that does happen faster if it's compounded faster. So if it doesn't take 5 years, come in heavy with a CapEx project that maybe it doesn't pay that pref the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, because we're putting everything into that CapEx. But the project's done in 12 months, 18 months, and then it can actually in 24 months be ready to cash out, refinance or sooner. Our average has been about 19 months up to this point. Even though we say 3 to 5 years, we try to do it as fast as possible, get the investor back their return, with obviously wanting to come into the next one, because we, like with our 100 employees and the system that we've built, we're overscaled to buy the properties that we want to buy in the next 10 years. We want to be massive. This year alone, our goal is targeted 5,000 units, and we're going to grow from there. So that idea is to always have investors an opportunity to come back in, and if we can make it happen faster, your money grows faster, because even though it's 20%, if you compound that, if we get you in and out of the deal faster, it really grows quickly. So
Okay, great. No, just want to know. People need to know up front, if they really want the cash flow, then this might not be the place for them. However, if they really want the growth, this is probably the perfect place for them, which reminds me of somebody I need to talk to, for instance. Okay, so otherwise it would be, so there are properties that already would be more cash flow, and if somebody wanted it, and they would get quarterly distributions after either the first or second quarter. So when do you do your cost segregation? Do you wait till that whole 19 months is up and you've gotten everything completed, or do you do that right at the close of escrow? Or
yes, we're generally trying to get that done in the first year. There's been a couple exceptions where we chose to not. We've done some motel conversions that didn't have the occupancy yet because it was in the middle of construction, and we chose to not do that the first year, but that would definitely be something going into it. And yeah, we closed 4 deals in December, and all of those will count as cost segregations for last year. So they're done right away.
okay. Thank you. Had another question somewhere here. Oh, yeah, you were talking about how much your renters really like the community and all the things you've done for them. I was just curious if you ever see, like, they start doing things to their own place to make it very special for them and kind of add a little value themselves. Have you ever seen that with any of your tenants?
We do see that, and to touch on what Brett had said is part of that aspect, and I think you mentioned bringing an apartment life. The nice thing about that coming in is that the stats that have come in so far from what we've seen and from what they described to us before we even started with them is the numbers are kind of striking on these apartment complexes, and how the residents, how many people they know in their complexes. I don't remember the numbers, but the average is like they might know 2 or 3 people in these 200 unit complexes, which is bizarre to me to hear that. And it might be kind of startling to hear other people. So the idea of that apartment life is coming in, throwing 3 events together. If you talk to some sponsors, not always compare it to other people, but it's easy to do. You'll find that everyone does the Thanksgiving and the Christmas. They take the pictures with the turkeys and the gift drive for Thanksgiving. We're giving these groups an apartment there, and the idea is to create that community so people know each other. It obviously keeps the occupancy high because people want to stay where they actually consider home. But what we found from that is they are turning into their homes. They are staying longer. You know, when we build this value and in cases where the rents are going up to get the value, they're staying because they are willing to pay for what they consider to be a community. And I mean, they're doing 3 events a month now, which are real events, community events where they're, you know, coming in, building, you know, gardens in the back and, you know, all kinds of stuff with the children in the community. So I hope that answers that question. But yeah, that's been the big thing for us is to actually make that sense of community so people know their neighbors. It's not just who is this person, who's that person. These people that are coming in there to live there are there to connect everybody together and actually make these their homes and not just a place they're living for a time. So.
And when their friends and family are there, if the rent is raised, let's say we raise it by $50, they don't want to leave because their friends and family are there, and going across town for a little bit less rent isn't worth it at that point because they have the friends in the community and all the pools are open. I mean, one of the properties that we're under contract with right now has 1 out of 3 pools that is open, and our plan is to open all 3 because, you know, why wouldn't the community want all these pools to be open so that they can use them, you know, in the summer when it's hot, and then, you know, right in the back of their apartment is a nice pool to go jump in. I mean, that's just adds to more of the community. You know, those kids around there can play in all 3 of those pools or whichever one's less busy that day.
And you find in the apartment communities, everybody talks about what is occurring. And so we found when we really go in and we really take care of the place, you know, there's no trash anywhere because of the staff that word spreads. And so you start to see people, oh, somebody left trash, let me pick it up, let me throw it away because it's out of place, you know, and they really start to take a good care of the community. Autumn Lakes, we have really nice community gardens that they go out and they plant all these vegetables, and then they go back and, you know, they're caring for these flower gardens and these vegetable gardens. And so it really becomes a whole community, and people, you know, kind of point out, well, don't throw that trash there. Like, this is my home.
Yeah, if you think about a single family home, if I throw a piece of trash in the front yard, you know, it's going to annoy you because it's there, but you're going to pick up and take care of your own property, and people are doing that. So.
Yeah.
That's great. So you might consider 1 adult pool out of 3. Just a thought.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
People like us that don't have kids, put the kids somewhere else.
That's a good idea.
It's a good idea.
Just a thought. I know you all laugh. I love kids, mind you. Just I like them to go home.
We'll do a curfew or something. But yeah, no, that's a good idea.
So you know, and don't forget they work all day and then they come home and they have to take care of their kids. So a little peace and quiet.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
Anyway, and David, you have a question or 2 or 3. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, the question of the week, right? So, I had a question. I'm sorry, I'm not on camera. I'm eating, so I'm using my lunchtime.
Yeah.
But a question reference to management. What are the most important things you look in a management company? 3 things versus other ones that you choose. Second question is on CapEx. What do you look at in CapEx if, let's just say, you started this journey with our investors, 2 years down the road, there's some sort of issue that comes up and you need some CapEx from the investors. How do you handle that? And what do you look for in those situations?
Yeah, those are great questions. So the first thing with the management, we do everything in-house as far as that goes. And so we really, so every Thursday we have a training, and the head of our property management is actually our founder, Brad Newton. And so he runs that on Thursdays, and everybody that is local in Hampton Roads, Virginia, is in the room. Everybody that's out of state is on Zoom, and it can run anywhere from 2 hours to 5 hours on Thursdays. And it's a collaborative combing through rent rolls, discussing successes that different properties have had lately, things that weren't going so well lately, anybody in the room can pitch in on, well, have you tried this? Have you done that? And it's, we have, I think, over 40 in-house property managers. And so it's great. And they're all taught, because there's an opportunity when you work here for ownership to view it as an owner. And so we've had people that have come on board, they've been doing it 25 years. They've never been taught a lot of these things. There's great money in ownership of multifamily, and that was most of the time that's kind of secret. I can't give you a raise. Well, why can't you? You're making all this money. Brad is happy to share all of that and what the value of $50, on an apartment in a rent roll means for ownership and value of the property. And so they're all taught to look at it as they own the properties, because a lot of them do. We have over 30 property owners that work for the company at this point. And so it's going through that, and we have rent roll specialists that are just unbelievable at crossing T's, dotting I's, making sure everything is organized. And so that's when we purchase a new property, we always have the goal of bringing on the people that work there already, and we hope that they're great. That's actually a big part of our criteria. For example, Mount Moriah that we're closing on currently, a big selling point to that was the staff. And Jenny that works there, she's the main property manager. She's been there over 10 years. She's unbelievable. She did the property tour for us, with us. Amazing personality. The head of maintenance has been there over 7 years. That's a big deal. Some of these people, they buy properties and they just hire a third party and they throw them in there, and it's a young 20s person that you're paying $45,000 to be in charge of a $50 million asset. Like, what company on earth does that outside of multifamily? You're not gonna just give a 20-year-old a $50 million company to run. And so we don't do that. It's a company that you're running that's been around for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years producing money, and it's a serious thing. And so we bring them on, hope they're as great as they seem before we buy it, and they have all the great knowledge of the property already. You'd never want to lose that right away. And so they work, in-house W-2. Once we purchase the property, they're all interviewed prior to closing, and they're all excited to come work for us. And so that, hopefully that answers the first question. A second question on the CapEx. I wrote down CapEx, sorry, and I got long-winded. Could you state that question again?
He was just asking if what you do about having to raise more funds. In other words, what we would call a capital call.
Yeah.
How to approach that.
Yeah, so we're proud to say with the 25 properties, there's definitely been needs for a capital call. We're proud that we've never done a capital call. We've funded it in-house. Our founder, is really after a great reputation and a great track record with our investors, and we want 200 plus people who have said, yeah, I've been investing with them for 10 years and they've done 4 great investments and never had a capital call. And so it's funded in-house. And that would just go, in as part of the loan. But
to the CapEx side, we have an extensive history and experience on our construction side. And so up front, we really we put a lot of detail into what we set aside for CapEx, for unit renovations, for our vision, what we're going to do to the properties. And we also generally leave a little bit of room in there as well. We put as much space in there for the unknown thing. And that's almost always covered every single thing we've needed at this point. But we have Jay, we have Justin, we have multiple people with decades of experience in multifamily, in construction, and their experience is worth 50 people other areas that help us put together these very extensive CapEx budgets. It's a lot of fun. Like I believe David mentioned, when we buy these properties, we're going through with our full team. We're walking the units. We're writing down every little small thing, and it's very detailed.
So that's why we have the full team go out there and walk as many units as they can give us. I mean, it's very valuable to walk and just see every single unit is different. So you don't know which units are gonna have these things wrong with them or need to have upgrades. So it's as many as you can see is best.
So
David, I feel like there was one other question, because I wrote down CapEx and I wrote down capital call. Was there a third question?
Might have been done.
Okay.
No, that was the question.
Yes. So while you're on the subject, Jay has asked, basically, I think what she would like to know is when you acquire a property and it needs a lot of work, what do you do with the tenants that are there? How do you treat them? Do you evict them? What is that process? And then we'll go to Gary.
Yeah, and so there's always an initial plan, but you're not doing this in a vacuum. There's variables that happen, and so for example, we're buying a 318 unit, and we're planning on having the ability within a 3-year period of time to do about 65 of the units, because it's a fully occupied community, and so if the person decides to renew and we don't get people that are moving out, we do things like rewarding them for staying with a higher rent. We'll go in and we'll replace some appliances, or we'll go in and we'll do a new floor and some quick things because the resident is staying in that unit. But yeah, generally it's just doing unit turns on vacant units. We try to not move people around. It would just be if the unit becomes available.
And do you have anybody that asks, oh, you renovated that, I want to move into a renovated unit? And you shake your head yes?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, they'll see the new unit. And the other thing is, when we come in here, it's obvious the value we're bringing because there's a presence there. And a lot of times, if we're buying it from somebody who has ran it with a third party, they instantaneously see the difference. They see us there every day. They see the difference in our property transformation specialists. And so our retention rate is very high because we do add the value to the property. The rents generally move with it. But our retention track record has been, say, 9 out of 10. A lot of times we're keeping the residents that we want there, that are going to keep the value of that property, because they're going to take care of it and look at it as a home as well. It's a mutual relationship is how we look at it with the people that we want to, live with us. So if there's a unit that we renovate, we'll find sometimes like, hey, I would prefer to live there, even if it's whatever the X more rent. They see that because they like their community already, and they have an opportunity to move into that one, which then again opens up that unit and allows us to do the transformation on that one as well, bringing in a new resident. Yeah, that's how you can really quickly scale to a really nice property.
We've got a couple unique things that we do. A lot of places have washers and dryers, but that's a big part of our plan, is to go in and identify where washers and dryers can go, because it's important to that single mom or that single dad to not spend their Saturdays at the laundromat, but be able to take them down to the pool. And so we put in full-size washer dryers in the units. Statistics shows that people spend almost $150 a month at the laundromat. I was shocked by that. The prices of doing a load of laundry are astronomical at the laundromats now. So we offer full-size washer dryers. You put a king comforter in them. They're brand new GE stackable units, and that's a really nice amenity, and they're willing to pay for those. We have properties where we're going in and adding washer dryers to certain units as fast as we can scale those, and people they're immediately gone. I want the ones with the new washer dryer, and we charge $150 for those washer dryers, and that's part of our CapEx expense. So it doesn't have a effect on the NOI. It's just a straight $150 value add, and at a 5 cap, if you value that, you multiply that by 20, it adds tremendous value to the property. Just a quick example of that, we bought a 694 unit in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And all of the units will have washer dryers added to the unit. We purchased that for $16 million. And the value of adding the washer dryers to the units is more than the purchase price of the property.
Wow.
We'll add more than $16 million by adding washer dryers.
Congratulations.
So it's our chief investment officer, talks about investing, talks through all these million different things, and he jokes that really I could just say washer dryers. How do you add all this tremendous value? Washer dryers.
Because I say it's great for us, it's great for obviously the investors that come along with us, but the other thing that people in general just can't replace is time. And so it really is worth it to our residents because we're giving them back so much time as well. And they find that and they're more than willing to pay for that because the time you have to spend in the laundromat, it's a lot for some people. So we're happy to provide both sides of that.
We also have another rule with our maintenance people is nobody's allowed to repair a toilet. If there's a toilet problem, they're replaced 100% of the time by a Kohler Aqua Flush piston toilet that'll flush 30 golf balls and saves a tremendous amount of water because you just—
We ask that they don't do that though.
Please don't flush golf balls. But the cost of going in there and discovering that they've had a running toilet for 2 weeks, the cost of water is astronomical. So that we realized that at Autumn Lakes when we bought it and it was half occupied, we doubled the occupancy to 100%. We added in all these water efficiency things, and the water bill doubling the amount of people there dropped by a third.
Wow.
Of those things. And so that's just straight into your value and how much it costs to run the property. And so, immediately if you have a water leak, if you have something like that, we're replacing the toilet with the goal of after a little bit, they're all brand new toilets, our water bills dramatically dropped. And it's another thing that goes on the CapEx, so it doesn't affect your NOI, and works out really well. Also helps to eliminate clogging and pipe problems.
Yeah, real quick, are these upscale toilets? Because I'm having some of those issues at times. I'm just curious, when you change them, certain level of toilet that you use, that'll last a lot longer and so forth. I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's always that exact toilet, the Kohler Aqua Flush, and I think we pay about $230 for that toilet. So it's just a great one that's well proven to be a good investment.
Thank you. And Gary's got a question.
Good afternoon. Actually, the back of an envelope. I was really writing in the right
That's
place.
what most of my notes are. So
So you'll love Gary. Gary's head of the water district in Calabasas, yes?
Right. The Las Virgenes Municipal Water District. I was elected 2 years ago to serve on the board, and I've been doing so. Have a lot of interest in water. Thought I could do a better job than some of the people who'd been there for 16 years, and I defeated them, I suppose you could say. I won. But I always say I was elected to serve, and that's what I'm doing, not just here in Calabasas, but all over Los Angeles County, actually the entire state of California, now all over the country. It's really, water is a very important feature. It's interesting that you just brought that up. It sounds like your greatest value is toilets and washer dryers. So I thought that was very interesting. I see people replace toilets all the time, but still with 2-piece. And every toilet should be replaced with a 1-piece toilet, because then you avoid all the leaks between the seals between the tank and the toilet itself. So I'll have to look up this Aquaflush. I'm not totally familiar with it, but that would be interesting. So when I was listening and I was thinking about, with 100 employees, do you have a back office? How do you distribute your employees around your company? And how does that help you save in terms of what I didn't catch was where you're purchasing all these apartments, because I do own some real estate and some apartments in some REITs and some that are not that way. And they're paying about 8%, 8.5% a year and have been pretty consistently. But where are most of the locations and how do you apportion your employees?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Well, I mean, just to touch on where the properties are, I mean, we're based in Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach area of Virginia, southeastern Virginia. So where we started from was obviously in Virginia, but Virginia, North Carolina has kind of been the central hub of where we've grown out from. So we're in multiple cities around those two. And we've been looking to do that to scale out this year, but we just scaled into Tennessee and Georgia as well. So right now our footprint is Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia.
Florida.
Good. I mean, Florida, yeah, and Florida is our next step. We're acquiring in Florida right now. So we've been looking for the perfect asset and we just recently found that. So that's where we're located as far as where our employees and team members are distributed, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got a great corporate office, and that's where the three of us are located. We're on the acquisitions side, and then we have 9 people in our accounting department. We have a CFO, we have a controller. Our controller was in charge at her previous job of 42,000 K1s a year. So we're pretty good at doing K1s here. And then we've got a lot of our team is actually the property maintenance and managers. So that makes up a good chunk of our team. But what makes us unique is having all of that in-house. We're able to I call it swarming. So if we acquire a new property and it has a bunch of vacancy and unit turns, we're able to deploy the full force of all of those people onto that property. And that's how we've been able to do unbelievable things like adding 80 leases in 1 month at a property. And so it's exciting with new ones that come on board, just to see how fast we can actually accomplish things, because aside from our heavy renovation projects like the new town center I mentioned that we bought for $16,000 a door, and our motel conversions, it's all of our properties are 100% full. And so those property managers are able to chip in and help with, other new properties that, need some more lease ups. And so everyone really pitches in. It's it's a team effort for us. And so, but generally you're assigned to this property and all of them are purchased individually with different LLCs. So you're invested in an exact asset that has, W-2 staff employed by that company specifically, but the corporate office really helps to pitch in wherever they can.
We also have an in-house counsel with 2 in-house attorneys and a paralegal as well that adds to the team.
Well, 42,000 K1s is impressive. One of what you described before is putting people living on property, which reminds me of growing up in New York City where we had a super. I don't think I never was a she at that time. I don't think he ever kept up with the property, but he certainly knew how to repair things, which was interesting. Do you have your people trained to actually maintain things at the property? And I have 2 more quick questions, Peggy. I know we're reaching the end of the hour, so you tell me if we can go over or not.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, but go ahead on the first question.
What do our maintenance?
Yes, so our maintenance, our goal is that all of them are HVAC certified, and they're all willing to do unit turns, and so that's where the huge cost savings comes in. A big thing for us is analyzing, the rent rolls and the NOI and the value of the properties, and so when you're able to capitalize a maintenance person because they're doing unit turns, you've now taken their salary and turned that into a capital expense. And so they're doing HVACs. Our maintenance people do everything except replacement of roofs, flooring, and tub reglazing. Other than that, everything is done in-house, full kitchen replacements, HVAC replacements, painting, repairs to the walls. That's all in-house, and it saves a tremendous amount. And I'm sure everyone on the call is familiar with labor shortages and quality workers and, showing up when they say they're going to. And so having them in-house to be able to say, we need this unit done right now, go paint this unit, they're all on staff. So we have complete control over, everybody's time and where
Okay,
it's
and
allocated.
you have two more questions, and then David has a question.
Yeah, so basically I heard somebody say that after about 3 years, you look to refi, but does that mean that you look to cash out your investors? Or I also heard you say that you're in this for the long term and you're renting to low income people. So trying to keep a quality product sometimes it doesn't really matter who's in an apartment, they don't always take care of it the way they should. How are you finding that to be? Because that is what one of my friend's biggest problems is, that you treat at least hopefully you treat the home you own better than the apartment you don't own, but that isn't the case necessarily with today's generation.
Oh,
So
David got into a lot of detail about that.
I did hear parts of it. So I just wanted to know if it's long term, and if you're refining in today's interest rate market, it's going down at the moment, but it went up. So the opportunity to refi wasn't there for the last 4 or 5 years.
The first part of that question, as far as the timeline for us, we say it's about 3 to 5 years that we're aiming to cash out refi. We've averaged 19 months so far, but say 3 to 5. We are long-term holders, so we aren't planning to sell ever if we don't have to. And then the second part of that question, as far as interest rates, the environment we're in right now, sorry, I just lost my train of thought for a second.
Yeah, just with the refinances, yes, interest rates have gone up. Lending is tougher than it was before. Insurance is tough. But all of those things are a lot of people that are, if they're getting in trouble in, commercial real estate, it's to do with the debt to service ratio and the timing of their refinance. So there are people that their loans are ending right now and they have to refi and they didn't perform and they haven't added tremendous value to the NOI to where the debt service works out, then yes, that's where the problem comes in. But when you're a basis buyer buying for the prices that we are, and you are performing and you are at 100% occupied at max rents, and you're adding the tremendous value to the NOI, the rates going up affects the amount of cash out, but still the numbers really work. And fortunately we have smart people on staff and all of those things are projected in our pro forma. So all of the rate hikes that have happened, we actually in our pro forma said that they would go higher than they actually did. And so we've been, pleased with where they ended up.
And to go back to the very beginning of the acquisition, so part of what us three do as well is the way we purchase it avoids a lot of those pitfalls. We're not buying on market deals. We don't do the typical process of, hey, everybody come buy this great asset and everybody bids it up and the per door is great and we're going to try to squeeze out this little bit of profit with some, value add to it. But we have our own process of how we've purchased. Like David said, oh, that's a one-on-one you found. Well, every single one has been that we've done full turns on so far. So our process of purchasing the cost basis is, we tell people 65 a door, 55 a door. So some of the per door prices that we're paying, they're like, you'll never see that again. And we do it again and we do it again and we do it again. It's just the process of how we buy them avoids a lot of that stuff later where you're trying to squeeze out a little bit of profit. So our cash out refinances, we don't have to have this max cash out refinance leverage and try to buy an A property where we're going to, try to increase rents $50. It's just not our process. It's not how we do. And so, even at our worst performance, so like Dave was saying, when we structure these performance, we build in the worst case scenario that we can think of. We don't build, oh, here's the best case and that's how we purchase it. It's got to make sense on a piece of paper. We call it napkin math. It's got to more than make sense because we don't engineer our deals. And then if it makes sense on napkin, we send it to our outside acquisitions guy who's thinks he's smart offers, but he's really good with numbers, but he'll engineer it for us. He's fabulous, and it has to make sense on both sides. And so it starts from a napkin. It's got to make sense in the worst case scenario, and that's how we buy. And so actually our performance, even at the worst case, we have done a tremendous job. Even if we haven't done the full turn on it, we have exceeded all of our performance within the first 12 months, maybe 18 months at the most on everything that we've done. And our performance, when we show them to you, when we show them to lenders, they're like, these are crazy performance, but those are actually our dumbed down performance, and we've exceeded every single one because of how we buy it up front. So it's really important that you start right, and that always gets us to the finish line. And it's something to brag about: 13.7 to 57 million, 5.4 million to 16 million. We have story after story when you go through. It's hard work, but it works well.
Yeah, and
Well,
Sure, yeah.
I'm gonna cut you off because I know Peggy has to go on to the next
Oh,
person,
sorry,
but I want to
okay.
say thank you. You are three of the most polished and pleasant people I've listened to, and Peggy's gonna shake her head because you really look like you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's and know what you're doing, and that's impressive. And I'll get your name from David. My health insurance business is gonna probably throw off $500,000 this year, and I would definitely like to invest. So we'll talk more.
Thank you. Well, we appreciate that. It's really nice of you to say.
thank you.
David, you have one more question or past the top of the hour?
I do, thank you. As Gary mentioned, I just came into the presentation. So, are you guys investing in lower class? Well, I mean, what asset class are you guys investing in? Do you guys deal with Section 8, and what percentage of your portfolio is Section 8?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we because of our double bottom line and our giving back to communities, we haven't done and generally won't do a Class A. We feel like those people are already doing all right that live in those communities, and so B plus is the top of where we purchase. And generally, when they're B pluses, they're low income housing tax credit properties that are built in the 2000s and newer vintage, but still great basis there. That's the top of the range, and then we go all the way down to things like Jacksonville, where it's a very heavy unit turn. Sometimes some flooring, and really needs a lot of love in those communities. But the reward is worth the work in those cases, and that's our range there.
Yeah, one other question. As far as you mentioned, you had 80 clients in 1 month that you had filled units in. I'm just curious what your methods are to do that, and how do you guys do that? Yeah,
it's a great question. So our staff on those particular properties, they grew up with it. They're regional. It's kids of the regionals. They just grew up, in multifamily, and they're just phenomenal at what they do, and we're able to chip in from multiple properties to lease those up. But those weren't just leased to anybody. We do full background check. We do full child support background check. We won't rent to anybody that's behind on their child support. We feel like if you're not going to pay for your own child, you're probably not going to pay your rent or keep up with our property. So we do that, and then we don't do any sort of 1 month free sort of thing. It's full. At the LIHTC properties, it's max rent is what we're renting for. We're not just trying to fill it with warm bodies.
So we do find the right residents, and our marketing department is fabulous. So we have lots of people to choose from, which is more than a matter of fact, part of our marketing department is David's wife. She does a great job.
So thank you, gentlemen, very much. David, do you have another question? We can stay on after if you like. Where'd they go?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Thank you. And they disappeared. All right. We'll see you all next week. We have a really great speaker next week. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head, but we'll get that information out to you, as you know we always do. So thank you. And if you want to stay on a few minutes after, we're happy to have you stay.